Hi, Jason Frausto for TennisUnleashed.net. Today we're going to look at the backhand of Jack Sock compared to some of the top players in the world and just some of the things technically that Sock needs to work on to improve his backhand. So you have Novak Djokovic pictured on the right. And the first thing that I want to go into is really just the grips and how Sock holds the racket and how some of the top players in the world hold the racket. In the first part of this analysis, I really want to get into the grip structure and differences between Sock and a lot of the top players. So we've zoomed in on Jack on the left and Novak on the right. And what we see zoomed in is you can see the blue line and then that highlighted yellow circle. And with the blue line, what you're supposed to see is that blue line is positioned on the second bevel of the racket, which just simply means that if you draw a straight line down from that bevel, it should run through the index knuckle on your bottom hand. For Novak, you can see that it runs through that position or it runs very close. What you see with Jack Sock on the left is you see a different image. You can see the blue line runs below the bottom knuckle of his right hand and not through the index knuckle position, which you see highlighted in the yellow circle. So really, Jack Sock has more of a one-hand backhand topspin grip than he does a two-handed backhand grip or a continental grip with the bottom hand. It causes a lot of problems, and it's something that happens in the very beginning of his stroke. Moving on from the grip, the next thing that we want to focus on here with Thomas Berdych on the right is the position of the top arm during the unit turn. So what we see with Sock is that as he brings the racket back, and Berdych, you can see the difference in the left arm and the elbow position. And what top guys do is they tend to get their left elbow away from their body at the completion of the unit turn, like what we see here with Berdych. And we'll show you another example of this in a second with Rafael Nadal. And we can see that Nadal does the exact same thing. So as he goes through the unit turn, the back arm, that left arm and elbow will get away from the body in a more relaxed position, creating some space away from the body so everything's not so tight. And with Jack Sock, you don't see that. You don't see that creation of space. You see that arm basically tucked in right by his side with very little space. So now we're really going to look at one of the most important pieces of the backhand puzzle, which is the racket drop for Sock and Nishikori. And what we're going to see here is a pretty extreme racket drop, something I've never seen before as far as how much the racket actually dips. And what we can see here with Jack Sock is that the butt cap of his racket basically points vertically to the sky when he drops his racket on his backhand. And the reason I want to use Nishikori is because Nishikori is hitting a low ball and he's getting below the ball quite a bit. This is the closest I could find anyone else getting the racket into a similar position, even though it's not really the same. But this is one reason why Sock has some issues on the backhand. It's such an extreme drop with the butt cap pointing vertically to the sky, and he's also doing this on his return of serve. And you might say, well, this is just one example or one shot, but he's doing this on every single backhand that he hits. And what we'll see moving forward into the last position here is that Sock goes from this extreme position with the butt cap pointed basically vertically to the sky into the contact position, which means there's a lot of racket head movement and hand movement that takes place in his backhand in a very short period of time. So we're going to see him go from this position, and we're going to see him go to the contact, and we can see that that racket head has moved an extreme amount in a very short distance or a very short period of time. With Nishikori, what we can see in the highlighted circle is that he does a nice job of keeping the top edge of his racket aligned roughly with his hands a little bit, or the middle of the racket in that calm position. And with Sock, you can see the top edge of his racket is well above his hands, and he hits a lot of his backhands like this. So again, there's some issues with consistency and control of that Sock backhand, and there's some reasons why those things are occurring. We'll just briefly review those, and we'll wrap it up. The first two areas to focus on in the Sock backhand are that bottom hand grip to make sure it's a little bit more continental, and then that top elbow position with that left arm getting more space. And the next area to focus on is really to make sure that that butt cap's not pointing up towards the sky, but that it's pointing a little bit more directly at the ball in the drive phase of the swing. And the last area to focus on is the actual contact itself, making sure the top edge of the racket is a little bit more in line with the hands and not in such a high position so that we're not slapping across the ball through the contact. I'm Jason Frausto for TennisUnleashed.net, and those are some of the keys to improving the Jack Sock backhand.